All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak on Trust Television. I think I need to get used to the Daybreak thing.
Yes, it's quite a name, isn't it?
Yes, we are going into the dailies on Daybreak this morning, and we have joining us, like I told you, our general editor, Daily Trust newspaper, in person of Hamza Idris. Good morning, sir.
Welcome
Good morning,
to the show.
Good morning, Zainab.
Welcome to the show. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper, of course. Quite a number of stories that we are seeing at the very top, somewhere below the nameplate. You would see terrorists, bandits freed in Kogi jailbreak, and also tales of agony as Yauri students clock 90 days in captivity. 32 APC chieftains jostle for sacked power minister's seat. And you also have the lead story there saying how communication failure caused deadly attack on troops in Zamfara. The writer is saying bandits killed 9 Navy soldier, 2 policemen. Telecom suspension costly, has no NSA clearance. That's according to a source. You also find there are other stories saying criminals bypass communication ban. Army chief to commanders, I won't take any excuse from you again. And yeah, the big picture there is showing you what the sad incident that happened in Abuja, one of the big estates here in the capital city, talking about Trademore Estate somewhere in Lugbe, where there was flooding and it damaged a whole lot of houses, and also you have some vehicles that were, many of them turned upside down, and one of them is what you can see on the pictorial there on Daily Trust newspaper. Beside that, at the right, Anambra governor leads protest against IPOP. You also find 4 die, others missing as flood ravages Abuja estate. That's the very flood incident I was talking about. MTN, Dangote, 56 others pay 733 billion naira dividends in 2021. At the very bottom, the story there says NNPC, allegations of manipulation take shine of historic profit. The writer there says we have nothing to hide. That's according to the management there. Well, I will always say there's no better person to do justice to these stories than the general editor himself. Now, let's look at the lead story on the Daily Trust this morning, talking about the impact of the communication suspension in the some parts of Zamfara state and some other states in the southwest. The implication of this is becoming more imminent, isn't it?
Yes, it is an interesting story, though sad. Interesting story in the sense that it brings to the fore what we call residual uncertainties, especially in military operations and in any other operations. Sometimes you take decisions which you feel will solve a major problem, but at the end of the day it creates some problems here and there, which might not be enough to condemn the whole decision when you look at it critically. So activities of bandits, forced the Nigerian authorities to shoot down communications in Zamfara state, which is completely infested by bandits, parts of Katsina states and other places. Now, this particular incident happened on Saturday, but we only got to know about it on Monday. This tells you that, of course, there is a breach somewhere. In military parlance, it was okay because that was the only way to choke the bandits, because the communication is their oxygen, is the major oxygen they use in getting across to families of their kidnapped victims. They also use communication to, get their logistics, especially food, drugs, and all that. And in their wisdom, the Zamfara state government and the military, and then the NCC, by extension the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, agreed to shoot down communication so that to choke the bandits. Sadly, we
seeing this kind of experience. Well, is it that there was no, adequate planning as to how troops, in those areas will be able to communicate with each other? Isn't that
yes?
something
Based
that should have
on
been done
based on our findings, the troops on ground, most of them rely on GSM to communicate rather than military communication gadgets or the walkie-talkie. They have the walkie-talkie, but not to everyone. Of course, not all of them should have, but at least maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 5, because this is what obtains in other climes. So that when you see danger, you will quickly talk to your neighbors, so that, this thing happened at forward operation base, meaning that place was actually a danger zone, and they were stationed there so that they would be able to confront the bandits. And terrorists, bandits, and other criminals, they are always a step ahead of you. Whatever you do, they look at how they can manipulate the template that you have. And this is what happened. And there was an allegation that, of course, the synergy was not really concrete, especially between the military and then the office of the National Security Advisor. I don't want to go into that details. We only mention it in passing, but it was part of the allegation that, I covered the Boko Haram for over 10 years, and we had similar incidents in Borno State, at the peak of the Boko Haram insurgency, around 2012, 2013. Communication was shut, the airport was closed, and then it was really tough for both sides. You understand, for both the military and the terrorists. But after some time, it was relaxed. I think it's a replication of what happened there, and it is paying off, because if you talk to the residents in Zamfara, if you talk to the victims, they will tell you that they are ready to pay the price.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So how would you say, has this affected the residents in any way?
It does, because they can't communicate with outside, and it's not only the shooting of the communication. There was restriction of movement. I don't know whether people are moving gradually, but at the beginning, movements were restricted, markets were closed. So it also affected the economic fortune of the people. But you can't rule out some of these things in a war situation. And the truth is, we are in a war situation in Zamfara, Katsina, parts of Kaduna, just the way we had it in Borno State in the past. So it is a tough one, of course, a tough decision that must be taken. But as I earlier said, we must be mindful of the residual uncertainties and then try to mitigate the effect of such decisions.
Can we guarantee that these insurgents will not bypass the conventional communication networks, that we use, and find a way around this thing?
It is captured in one of our riders in the story. They are already doing that because they are moving to other contiguous states like Sokoto, parts of Katsina, where we still have networks. They go there, only that, their capacity for mischief has been checkmated grossly, because they have to travel miles in order to make telephone calls, and then to even order for logistics, and then based on our findings, because we too, getting the stories, we have to use other methods to extract what we can. Yes, we station our reporters outside the place, and then we ask them to be going to motor parks, because of course there is still movement. Like you see from Zampara, people coming up north, passing through Funtua, coming to Zaire and all that. So we have our reporters, because we are also grossly affected.
Right.
You can't have one-way information. So we now have to devise this means of asking our reporters to constantly go to motor parks, and then other methods of getting some of this information, which really I will not divulge here.
Okay, we just hope that things really turn out for the better, because it seems so much is happening at the same time. Right about now, let's move on to the next paper, which is The Nation. We have up there, ICPC invites ex-IG, DG, budget others. We also have right there at the middle, IPOB stops pupils from sitting for WASC exams in Southeast. We also have Appeal Court President, judges pay poor judiciary underfunded. And the lead headline there is Panic in FCT, Kwara, Ekiti, over 240 fleeing inmates. We also have 4 die, 6 vehicles swept away in Abuja flood. I think this is talking about the estate in Lugbe. We also have 75 Zamfara pupils freed. Striking doctors disown NMA over Buhari meeting. So I think the lead headline there talking about panic in FCT, Kwara, Ekiti, over 240 fleeing inmates. How did we come to this?
Yes, the jailbreak in Kaba. Very sad. So we also have it on our paper. It happened late hours of Sunday, where over 240, inmates, yes, fled. You can see the Nation took another angle to the story. Ours, we tried to explore some of the suspects freed. We said terrorists. This include members of the Boko Haram, Ansaru, Darussalam, some bandits, and many other sundry criminals. Kogi is like a mini Nigeria. This is the truth, because if you are going to the south, basically from this part of the country, you must pass to Kogi. So it's like a red spot, and it has been the spotlight for a very long time. And whenever you have jailbreak, the tendency is that if you take or you sample rate of crimes a week after or 2 weeks after, you will see it going up. That is why jailbreak is a serious issue all over the world, because you incarcerated high profile, high caliber criminals somewhere, and then most likely some of their cohorts outside will do whatever it takes to free them. And this is what happened. Between 2010 and now, there have been about 4 or 5 jailbreaks in Kogi State, which is very sad. Of course, some of the inmates, you see them going back on their own. Some will be captured, but many of them have not been seen again. We don't know. Of course, yesterday, the leadership of the correctional service said some have been rearrested. But more than 70% or 80% are at large, which is very, very dangerous. And then, they will not be within the confines of Kogi, or they will move to Kwara, FCT, Kaduna, Plateau, and what have you.
Well, this happenings, this jailbreak of a thing has been happening. We've had a couple of them, like you mentioned. is this not dampening the confidence of ordinary Nigerians on the ability of our system to, stand strong? Because, I mean, if it happens once, twice, it is expected that actions, or I would say measures, will be taken to ensure that there's no repeat of, such incidences. But it's almost becoming like a daily thing now.
Especially in Kogi. It is the obvious truth that our security operatives are overstretched. Based on available records, there were about less than 40 correctional service operatives at the facility in Kaba. Less than 40. And then they said over 100 of these assailants stormed the facility, and each one of them well kitted with arms, most likely higher caliber, when you compare it with what the officers at the correctional facilities had. Besides, they also went there with explosives, because they attacked some parts of the walls of the facility, destroyed it, and then set the inmates free. So it is really a problem, and Nigerians of goodwill will always have reservations in a situation whereby criminals have been, confined to a certain place, and then suddenly some criminals again will go and set them free to keep wreaking havoc on the society. So it is really sad and worrisome. As I said earlier, anywhere in the world is a serious problem.
So can we say that our attention has now been diverted to the conflict-prone states like Zamfara and Katsina and other states, and now they've diverted our attentions right back there, and they are using other means, to perpetrate other forms of crime?
Very likely. You see, criminals, they always think ahead of other people because they know that they are suspects. Now, just one day you have these high-profile incidents, the one in Zamfara, enough for all Nigerians to cry, because when you lose 12 soldiers at a go, it is really a serious problem. It's a national calamity. And then here on the other side, you now have criminals also, suspects, let me put it this way, because many of them have not been tried. They are awaiting trial, which is another problem for another day, which I think we should try and discuss. And then some, I strongly feel, shouldn't have been kept in that facility, because you can't just keep some criminals in certain facilities. Even the prisons, they have layers of confinement where, depending on the person you have in your custody, where you keep them. You have the maximum prisons, and then like the one in Benue. So there is a problem. The name of prisons was also basically changed in order to address some of these issues. And what is there in name change? If really you didn't take the necessary action in terms of manpower, in terms of facilities, in terms of communication, because it was much later that they received support from sister agencies when the damage was completed. Yes.
Well then, we'll take a look at other papers this morning, and the next one is the Punch newspaper. On the Punch today, we have the first story at the very top: non-oil exports. FG suffers 5.8 trillion naira revenue shortfall. We also have VAT judgment. FIRS may lose 92 billion naira revenue to state. Another strike looms, ASU warns. You also have NAT wants Buhari to lead talks. Falana heads legal team. The lead story there, military onslaught in Zamfara. Dislodged bandits flee southwards. Gunmen strike in Kogi, Kaduna, Ekiti. The writer says, we got intelligence reports that bandits were coming to Ondo Forest. That's according to Amotekun Corps commander. Terrorists invade Kogi prison, free 240 prisoners, kill 2 soldiers. Gunmen abduct 4 Ekiti travelers. You would also see the flood incidents on the pictorial on the Punch newspaper. 4 dead, 166 houses destroyed in Abuja estate flood. Also, below that, there's a story, indigenous nationalities demand referendum as UN protests starts today. You also see Oshun liquor trader stabs customer to death, reports self. That's quite tragic. APC state congresses hold October 2nd. You'd find that on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. And then at the very bottom, FG warns against fake vaccine card sale, justifies compulsory vaccination. Sex worker slits Lagos trader's stomach with blade. Victim dies, unfortunately. EFCC raids Ogun government hotel. Others harboring fraudsters arrest 56. Well, these are some of the stories.
Some really sad stories.
Yeah, very, very sad stories. Some of the lead stories, more like, reputation and all of that. But, it's of interest to me is the issue of industrial action, like we are seeing, highlighted here. There's a looming strike by ASU. And also you have NAD, that's resident doctors who have been on strike, for some months now, I would say, and the issue is still being dragged here and there. Is it that there's no proper communication and dialogue before, these strikes are called off? Why do we see a repeat over and over?
It is their second name. Since time immemorial, ASU, they've been going on strike. Doctors have been going on strike because the system is not really working. I think if both parties keep to, the dialogue they had, and then what each one of them brought to the table, and then they agree, I don't think if we would be having these needless strikes, because you can see now no middle class person ordinarily will allow his child to study in Nigerian public universities.
Terrible.
Because a course of 4 years will last 6 years or more. The same thing with the health sector, and that is why you have proliferation of all sorts of health facilities. We have hundreds of higher institutions, degree awarded institutions, but you see people going outside the country in order to earn a degree. It's so pitiful that Uganda, Benin Republic, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, they are destination of choice for Nigerians now to go and learn. And not because the universities are bad. Of course, if you see our academics abroad, they are doing extremely well. But the journey for you to get to the promised land is the problem. But at the end of the day, if you get it, you realize that it is not easy. So there is the need, I think, for us to be truthful, especially government. ASU keeps coming with, I'm not trying to defend them, but they keep saying the government had reneged in its promise.
Well, is it that these demands of ASUU are requests? I've had a couple of people who said, look, these demands are unrealistic and government cannot meet those demands.
Which of them is unrealistic? None, let me tell you. There are states in the United States, if you go, the universities are remitting taxes and royalties to the state government. You understand what I'm saying? But here, education is still a charity.
Mm-hmm.
And then, even people are not willing to support the system. Look at what happened in Kaduna. The governor increased tuition of the state university. And I think it's not even up to 150 or thereabout. The whole world descended on him.
Yeah,
How much are you paying for your child attending nursery school in Abuja?
Well, you need to
quite
look
high.
at the, I would say, the poverty level in the country and the accessibility to education, in terms of the income of ordinary people, in the country and all of that. And these are factors that must be considered.
What we are saying is that there should be concession on both sides. We are so obsessed with degrees now in Nigeria. You understand what I'm saying? Instead of skills. Because if some of these universities also, so I'm not talking about the other side, while scolding the government of not fulfilling some of its promises, one, and then redefining even the curriculum of the university. Say, look, you have to be a revenue generation institute. I'm not talking about profit or whatever, but you should be able to sustain yourself through research. As I said, in other places, you see the universities conducting research whereby industries will come and pay. You understand?
Right.
Industries will come and pay for the findings. Pharmaceutical industries, automobile, agriculture, you understand, commerce and what have you. So it becomes a win-win thing. But here, both the teachers and the students, everyone is just struggling to see that, okay, I have certified 1,000 PhDs, first class, or degrees and what and all that. And then on the other side, the students, all what they want is, let me get the degree. After the degree, then I will join the queue to get employed in any of the government agencies. We are not doing the right thing.
So we all know that we have a dysfunctional educational system. How do we fix this from the elementary level?
The dysfunction is actually in the outer layer. Let me be frank with you. Because up till now, you see our products, getting placements all over the world. Meaning, it's not really the system that is completely faulty, but it is a matter of problem of managing success. Let me put it this way. Problem of managing success. The same thing that we have in the health sector. How many thousands of medical personnel do we have in the US, in other European countries? And most of them studied here in Nigeria. And why are they moving out? Because after they graduate, we find it difficult to pay them. And you subsidize something, because no tuition in Nigerian university is still dead. No tuition.
We'll be looking at the Guardian newspaper as the next paper today. The lead story there says Nigerians lose 300 billion naira to Ponzi schemes, speculative trade. The writer there, 2 commit suicide as operators task FG on national development. Any unregistered investment scheme is illegal, says SEC. Founders on the run as EFCC arrest 10 operators. You'd also see experts list measures to safeguard Nigerians against falling victim. Below the pictorial, of course, the pictorial there is showing you the legal year that was, celebrated, I would say, or marked by the judiciary yesterday. And we also have below that Southeast residents defy governors, observe sit-at-home order. And then the writer there says sit-at-home continues today to commemorate Nnamdi Kanu home invasion. Gunmen invade Imo School, chase away students writing WAEC exams. You'll also find Obiano leads protest against IPOP, visits markets and banks. Other stories there by the left corner of the paper. Igbo elders tackle Southeast governors, others over non-passage of anti-grazing laws. Dollar breaks 550 to a dollar barrier as Naira continues free fall. You would also see beside that, gunmen kill 2 in Kaduna, injure others. 250 inmates escape as gunmen kill 2 soldiers in Kaba prison. These are some of the stories that we are looking at this morning, and I think of interest is the issue of the Southeast, where we have the sit-at-home order now becoming more and more traditional in the Southeast. Do you think that this is an outcome of fear, by residents in the Southeast, or a sign of solidarity or acceptance, of this IPOP agenda?
Yeah, all of this. Number one, the residents have this fear that we don't have enough security operatives on the streets to protect them in the event of onslaught by the security arm, the terrorist arm of IPOP, because they have this Eastern Security Network, is the armed group under the indigenous people of Biafra. So if you have fears, what do? You remain at home, because life has been reduced to almost nothing now. You see many people killed, and then the next day you just have another story to contend with, so you've forgotten the other one. So out of fear of the unknown, some people stay at home, and then others, in solidarity, as you said, they believe that their governors have failed them, and they have been brainwashed that it is going to be heaven for them if IPOP ultimately sees the region, and then they actualize the Biafran thing. So it's a combination of problem, and of course there are some of the governors who are always calling out IPOP, like the Anambra State governor, yesterday he staged a protest also against the activities of IPOP, because his understanding most likely is different from others. So it's a combination of so many factors. Some believe in the propaganda staged by Kanu. Some don't have confidence that they will be secured. Some want to protect their belongings, because you cannot tell if you go and open your shop and then hoodlums, some there kill you and take everything away, what becomes of your family?
So with this, would you say Nigerians have lost confidence in its government?
That is a tough one. You see, Nigerians are really law-abiding people, and they always give this room for the government to do the needful. You understand what I'm saying? Many people strongly believe in Nigeria, because those who have traveled, you understand, they know that there is no African country that will contain us. I'm telling you, if the country crashes, in one day we will eat the whole food in Benin Republic. or in Niger. So,
Well, but you know, as I look at this, you know, this issue of sit at home, isn't it worrisome, you know, that economic activities are being shut down in that region? Is it not going to end up hurting the people more, you know, than whatever protest they're protesting?
life first before the economy. This is the problem all over, and this is the issue all over the world. And that is why the Constitution said the responsibility of the government is to secure the people first, because you have to be alive to eat. You have to be alive to go to school. You have to be alive to go to market. And if the environment is not conducive, what do? You can stay for 3 days without eating and you don't even remember. I'm telling you, we pass through this in the Northeast. Sometimes you forget that I have not eaten since morning because of sound of gunshots and what have you. So security is very, very important, and then investment in security should not be toyed with.
So can we restore confidence in people in the Southeast who are genuinely just wanting to do business? You know, they want to live their daily lives, they want to earn their living, they want to go ahead with their daily routine. But for this sit-at-home order that is becoming more like a barrier for them now,
Yes.
how can we restore confidence?
We should stop making empty proclamations, empty promises. Because if you check the papers, the social media, you realize that almost it's now a routine. Every Sunday, the governors will say, I am urging you to go out, you will be protected. But people are not crazy. You understand? You have to match your utterances with action. The IPOB fighters, they are not coming from the moon every morning. They look around, you understand? And the locals, you know, see them. But if you, in the comfort of government house, or at the police station, or headquarters, or army division, or whatever, you now said, come out, we will protect you. And then now you step out on your house, from your house, and then you didn't see any police for more than a kilometer. What do? Honestly, I will run back home. But in a situation whereby you go out of your house and then you saw police personnel maybe at every 50 meters or 200 meters, you now have the confidence that, yes, I'm secured. It's just like now, I don't think if anybody gets worried going out without a penny in his pocket. If you know you have money in the bank and you have your ATM. Because I saw a story idea just yesterday, while coming here in the morning. I'm telling you, less than 100 meters, you see POS point.
Yes.
Right.
Less than 100 meters, you see POS. This is how it should be, security-wise. If not the personnel, you know that there is a camera that is watching every other person. So even the miscreants, if they know that at every 100 or 200 meters, you have maybe a security person, or there is a camera watching you, there will be circumspection. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it's really terrible. Well, I think you just mentioned security personnel should be scattered over so that people can at least have confidence to perform their daily activities. But we've heard cases where when situations like this come up, security personnel fleeing those scenes. In such cases, what should we do?
It is because they were not kitted. They were not prepared for it. You understand? If a miscreant has a den gun and he knows that the police close to him has an AK-47 rifle, will he attempt to mess up? You understand? So it's not just having the personnel, but you have to give them the required support in terms of equipment for them to discharge their responsibility. We have the finest police, finest military personnel. I'm telling you, and this is not exaggeration.
Well, we thank you so much, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, Hamza Idris, for joining us this morning on the Daybreak Show to look at the front pages of our newspapers. Thank you so much.